He thought I was asleep, thought I was too old, too trusting, too tired to notice what he was doing. My daughter's husband crept into my bedroom that night like a thief in the dark, hands already shaking with greed. He opened my drawer, right where I knew he'd look. He found the key I let him find. And when he opened the safe, he didn't discover riches. He discovered the truth, not just about me, but about what I knew, what I'd heard, and what I'd planned. He thought he was conning an old man out of his life savings. What he didn't realize was that I'd spent 30 years investigating people exactly like him. So while he planned his perfect crime, I planned something better. The perfect trap. What happened next? He'll remember for the rest of his glitter-covered life, if that opening got your heart racing. You'll want to stick around to the end. Like this video, subscribe for more spine-tingling betrayals and jaw-dropping justice. And share this with someone who loves a good revenge twist. Comment below where you're watching from. And tell us, have you ever trusted the wrong person? They say the worst betrayals come from those closest to you. For me, it wasn't a stranger or a criminal that invaded my life. It was my daughter's husband. A man who smiled across my dinner table, laughed at my jokes, and pretended to care about my stories. I thought I was helping them. I thought I was offering shelter, giving them a chance to get back on their feet. But what I was really doing was opening the front door to a quiet, calculated thief. Tyler had always been polite, maybe a little too polite. He'd shake my hand just a second too long, hold my gaze a little too firmly, and ask questions that felt harmless, until you looked back at them in hindsight. I was 66, retired, comfortable, and alone in a big, two-story home with more square footage than I needed. When my daughter Rachel called me crying one morning, explaining that Tyler had lost his job and they were 3 months behind on the mortgage, I didn't hesitate. Of course they could stay here. I'd do anything for Rachel. She was my only child. They moved in the next day with too many bags for a temporary visit. Rachel hugged me like she was drowning and I'd just thrown her a life raft. Tyler, on the other hand, walked through my house like he was inspecting a model home. He complimented the kitchen cabinets, asked about the square footage, and said something about how the property value must have gone up in this neighborhood. I brushed it off as nervous small talk. Looking back, I realized he was casing the place. The first week passed quietly. I adjusted to the sounds of other people in my house again. Extra footsteps on the stairs. The soft hum of the guest room television late at night. Rachel's voice floating through the kitchen as she brewed tea. It was almost nice to have them there. Almost. But Tyler asked a lot of questions. About the neighbors, about my banking routines, even about whether I kept cash in the house in case of emergencies. He disguised his questions as casual conversation, framed them as concern for my well-being. I gave vague answers not because I was suspicious, but because I wasn't used to explaining myself. The first real warning sign came on a Thursday evening. We were sitting at the dinner table, halfway through baked salmon and steamed green beans, when Tyler suddenly asked what kind of lock I had on my bedroom safe. The question came out of nowhere. The fork froze halfway to my mouth. Rachel coughed and shot him a look, but Tyler just smiled at me across the table like he'd asked about the weather. He said something about home security, about how older people could be targets these days, about how I must have good protection in place. I gave a tight-lipped answer, then changed the subject, but my chest had already tightened. That night, I noticed something strange. When I went upstairs after dinner, my bedroom door was slightly ajar. I always closed it, always. It was a habit born from years of living alone and valuing privacy. The opening was barely 2 inches wide, but it felt like a spotlight. I stood there at the top of the stairs, staring into that sliver of darkness, heart pounding. I waited, no movement, no sound, just the creaks of an old house and the whisper of my own breath. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. Nothing looked disturbed. But that's the thing. When you live alone for years, you start to notice even the smallest details. The closet door wasn't shut completely. The second drawer of my dresser wasn't flush. A manila folder peeked out slightly, like someone had shoved it back in too fast. I opened the drawer. My papers were there. Bank statements, insurance documents, my will. But they weren't in the right order. Someone had gone through them. And then I checked the underside of the drawer lip. That's where I used to tape the small brass key to my safe. Used to. The tape was there. The key was gone. I didn't panic. I didn't confront. I didn't tell Rachel. I just stood there in the dark, holding the drawer open, breathing through the realization that someone had crossed a line. Someone had invaded my private world with purpose and intent. I knew who it was. I didn't need proof. Tyler had been in my room while I was downstairs, smiling over dinner and asking about the very thing he was already trying to access. But Tyler had made a mistake. He assumed I was unaware. That I was just a tired, forgetful old man. He didn't know that I'd spent 3 decades as an insurance investigator, specializing in fraud, deception, and pattern analysis. I'd dealt with professional liars for most of my career. Tyler was nothing new. He just happened to be family. So I did what I used to do back then. I built a case. I started by checking my bedroom every morning and evening. Took photos of drawer positions, door angles, object placements. It was subtle, quiet, and methodical. Tyler never noticed. He probably thought his search had gone undetected. That I hadn't realized the key was missing. That he was still in control. Then 2 nights later, I heard his voice through the heating vent. I'd just laid down for the night. Rachel had gone to bed early with a headache. Tyler was still downstairs. I wasn't expecting anything, but then I heard him speaking in hushed tones. "Yeah, it's me." Everyone's asleep. The old man's definitely loaded. I found the bank stuff. We're talking serious money. My blood went cold. I slipped out of bed and knelt beside the vent, holding my breath. His voice was clearer now, rising with excitement. Tomorrow night. Rachel's got her book club. She'll be out from 7 to 9. That's our window. "I've got the key." The old fool keeps everything in that safe. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand and started recording. I have the safe key. "Got it during dinner." He never noticed. The guy's practically handing it over. There it was, proof. Not just of intent, but of premeditation. Tyler wasn't acting on impulse. He had debts. He had an accomplice. He had a timeline. By Thursday, we're gone. I'll tell Rachel I got a job offer. Out of state. Urgent. The old man won't even know until we're miles away. I stopped the recording and stared at the glowing screen. This wasn't just betrayal. It was strategic, precise. Tyler was willing to rob me, lie to Rachel, and vanish without a trace, dragging her into his mess. But he'd underestimated one thing. I'd seen this kind of plan before. I knew how these men thought, and this time, the victim was ready. The game had begun, and I wasn't going to lose. The morning after that phone call, everything looked the same. Rachel making coffee in the kitchen, Tyler scrolling through his phone at the table, sunlight spilling lazily through the windows. But I knew what they didn't. I knew tonight Tyler would make his move. And I knew exactly how I was going to stop him. I didn't confront him. I didn't alert Rachel. I needed Tyler to stay confident. I needed him to believe I was still clueless, still the same old man who didn't lock his drawers or notice a missing key. I wanted him relaxed, unworried, and sloppy. That kind of arrogance always leaves evidence. My job was to make sure the evidence landed exactly where it needed to. On him. At breakfast, I played my role perfectly. A little forgetful. A little tired. I rubbed my temples and mentioned how I hadn't been sleeping well. Tossing and turning, I said, "Even took one of those pills last night. The strong ones the doctor gave me." Tyler's eyes flicked up for just a second. Just long enough for me to know he was listening. Rachel suggested a quiet day at home. Tyler claimed he had some job applications to follow up on. I told them I'd be running a few errands. Nothing major, just the hardware store, maybe the bank. Tyler perked up at the mention of the bank, asking if everything was all right. I gave a vague answer about checking on a certificate of deposit that might be maturing soon. By the time I pulled out of the driveway, Tyler was watching me from the upstairs window. Not from the guest room. From the hall outside my bedroom, I gripped the wheel tighter. He was scouting, measuring, memorizing. I started with the supply store first. It was small and quiet, the kind of place where the same 3 employees had been working for the last decade. I wasn't there for nails or light bulbs. I was there for the party aisle, specifically a spring-loaded confetti cannon and the cheapest bag of ultrafine glitter they sold. Gold and silver. If Tyler wanted to be a thief, I wanted him to look the part. Then came the electronics shop. I told the clerk I needed a simple wireless security camera. Something motion-activated with good night vision. He showed me a small model about the size of a deck of cards. Magnetic mounting, connects to your phone, easy. Back at the house, Rachel and Tyler were out grocery shopping. I had the place to myself. The clock was ticking. I had less than 3 hours to prepare a trap that would turn a quiet break-in into a glittering catastrophe. In the basement workshop, I disassembled the confetti cannon. The mechanism was simple, spring plunger, pressure trigger. I replaced the paper confetti with a mixture of glitter so fine it would stick to skin, hair, and clothing for days. I tested it 3 times with a wooden spoon, adjusting the sensitivity until it would only fire if someone reached deep into the drawer, exactly where the real key used to be. Then came the bait. I needed Tyler to feel successful. I needed him to reach with confidence. I found an old brass luggage key that looked similar to the original safe key. I taped it in plain sight near the front of the drawer. A perfect decoy. The trap went into the second dresser drawer, Tyler's favorite. I tucked the mechanism under a pile of mundane paperwork, then carefully arranged the contents so everything looked untouched. The drawer closed smoothly. Nothing looked out of place. Now came the final piece, the camera. In my bedroom, I experimented with placement. On the shelf? Too obvious. Inside a drawer? Too limited. Finally, I settled on my nightstand, wedged between books, angled toward the dresser. The app showed a perfect view, my bed, the dresser, the space Tyler would stand in. I turned off the lights. The infrared night vision was crystal clear. Every step Tyler took would be documented in high-definition silence. Motion detection was set. Audio recording was active. Battery life full. I ran a test. Opened the door, stepped inside, reached for the drawer. The camera triggered instantly. Perfect. I reset everything and went downstairs just as Rachel and Tyler returned. They brought back too many bags for a short trip. Tyler was already planning his exit. We had a calm lunch. Tyler made small talk about lawn care, asked me again if I'd ever considered selling the house. I said no, it was paid off. No mortgage. He said that was rare these days. I just smiled and sipped my coffee. After lunch, I announced one more quick errand. This time to the electronics shop, just picking up a new cable, I claimed. Tyler nodded like he didn't care. But I could see it, the tension in his jaw, the way his eyes kept flicking to the clock. He was counting down the hours. I returned 30 minutes later and locked myself in the bedroom for 10 more minutes. One final check. The drawer, the camera, the angle, the app, all green. All ready. Downstairs. I joined them in the living room. Rachel curled up with a book. Tyler scrolled his phone, pretending not to watch the clock. I faked a yawn. Long day, I said. I might turn in early tonight, Tyler smiled. Said that sounded like a good idea. Then he offered something new. How about a drink first, just you and me? I hesitated. He insisted. Said it would be good for bonding. Even mentioned a bottle of expensive whiskey he'd seen in my kitchen. My suspicion was confirmed. He wanted me sedated. I refused politely. Said it didn't mix well with my medication. Said I'd probably take a sleeping pill instead. That did the trick. Tyler's shoulders relaxed. He believed I'd be out cold by midnight. I climbed the stairs slowly, playing the part of a tired old man winding down. In my room, I got ready for bed. I didn't take a pill. I didn't even close the door completely. I left it open, just a crack, so the camera would catch everything. I lay fully clothed under the covers, watching the camera feed from my phone. My bedroom was empty, silent, waiting. Downstairs, I heard the television playing softly. Then Rachel's footsteps on the stairs. Then silence. I checked the time. 9:47 p.m., any moment now. Tyler would make his move, and I'd be ready. At 2:43 in the morning, the silence broke. I'd been lying in bed for nearly 5 hours, fully clothed, pretending to sleep. My phone sat tucked under my pillow, screen dimmed but active, quietly streaming the feed from the hidden camera across the room. Nothing had moved, nothing had stirred. Until now, the faintest creak echoed up the stairs. Not loud, not fast, but deliberate, careful. Tyler was making his move. He knew exactly where the steps creaked and where they didn't. He'd mapped the floorboards over the last 3 weeks, learning where to place each foot for maximum silence. But what he didn't know was that I'd been mapping him too. I kept my breathing slow and steady. The camera feed showed my bedroom, dim in night vision. Empty, still, waiting. Then, a shape appeared in the doorway. Tyler moved like a ghost. Dressed in black, socks instead of shoes, every step measured. He paused in the doorway for a full 30 seconds, standing perfectly still. He was watching me, trying to confirm what he believed, that I was unconscious, that the sleeping pill I'd claimed to take was doing its job, that I was dead to the world. I didn't move, didn't blink, didn't flinch. Satisfied, he stepped into the room. He moved toward the dresser, not with caution, but with confidence. He believed he was alone. That victory was just a drawer pull away. His body language radiated control. He was so sure of himself, so convinced this would be easy. He bent down and reached for the second drawer. He pulled it. Open, his hand reached inside. He took the bait. The explosion was glorious. A thunderous pop ripped through the bedroom as the confetti cannon fired directly into his face. A cloud of silver and gold glitter erupted like a firework, coating his head, chest, and arms in a dazzling blast of sparkling powder. It caught in his eyebrows, his hair, the folds of his shirt. It settled into his skin like a second layer. There was no hiding it, no brushing it off. It was everywhere. Tyler stumbled backward, arms flailing, cursing under his breath. He looked like he'd been attacked by a Christmas ornament. He backed into my nightstand, knocking over a book. Glitter floated through the air like a shimmering accusation. I sat up in bed slowly, performing the role I'd rehearsed all day. What was that? I turned on the lamp beside me. Light filled the room, revealing Tyler in full, glitter-drenched shame. His face froze. His mouth opened, closed, then opened again. Words failed him. He was holding the dummy key. My expression was all confusion. Wide-eyed concern, the kind of look only an old man waking up from a dead sleep could muster. Tyler, what are you doing in my bedroom? His mouth moved, but no sound came out. More glitter slid from his shoulders like snowfall. I heard a noise, he finally stammered. Thought someone was breaking in. I blinked at him. So you decided to search my dresser? He looked down at the drawer, then back at me. His hands were still glowing with flecks of gold. The dummy key was pinched between his fingers like a trophy turned curse. There was some kind of trap, he said, dazed. A trap in my dresser? Footsteps thudded from down the hall. Rachel was awake. I heard her call my name, Dad? What was that sound? I didn't answer. I just stared at Tyler, letting him sweat. Rachel appeared in the doorway, tying her robe. She stopped dead in her tracks. Her eyes widened. Her gaze moved from me, sitting up in bed, to the open drawer, to Tyler standing in the middle of the room, glittering like a parade float. What? What is going on? Tyler turned to her, panic blooming. I was checking on your dad. I heard a noise. Rachel looked at me. Then the drawer. Then back to Tyler. You're covered in glitter. It was some kind of booby trap. I think your dad. He stopped himself. I raised a brow. Why would I booby trap my own dresser? Rachel's expression hardened. She wasn't buying it, Tyler. What were you looking for? His voice caught. His shirt sparkled. His excuses ran dry. Rachel stepped further into the room. Her tone shifted. Sharper. Protective. Tell me what you were doing in my father's bedroom at 3 a.m. Tyler looked at me, then her, then back again. His mind raced, eyes darting to the drawer, to the door, to any possible exit from the moment. There was none. His glitter-covered form was the only thing anyone needed to see. Rachel folded her arms. I'm waiting. Tyler drew a shaky breath. Reached for his old charm. Rachel, I swear. I thought I heard something. I came to check, that's all. Then why is the drawer open? Because I thought maybe someone had already been in here. So you checked the drawer? Yes, with your hands? Yes, and ended up like that. She gestured at him, head to toe in sparkling gilt. Tyler's jaw clenched. I can explain. Then do it. Before he could spin another lie, I spoke. Rachel, there's something you need to hear. I reached to my nightstand and pulled out my phone. Tyler took a step toward me. David, don't what? Rachel's voice was low and dangerous. I tapped the screen. The recording began to play. Tyler's voice filled the room. Yeah, it's me. Everyone's asleep. The old man's definitely loaded. I found the bank stuff. Serious money. Rachel's face went pale. Tomorrow night. Rachel's going to her book club. She's out from 7 to 9. Perfect timing. I've got the key, Tyler tried to speak. Rachel held up a hand. No, she listened to every word. Listened to her husband lay out his betrayal like a blueprint. Listened to him describe her father as a fool. Listened to him plot their escape after the theft. She didn't say a word. When the recording ended, she looked at Tyler, eyes burning. You were going to rob my father? Rachel, it's not what it sounds like. You were going to use me, lie to me, steal from the man who took us in. Tyler reached for her. Rachel, please. She stepped back like his touch was poison. Get out. He froze. What? Get out of this room. Get out of this house. Get out of our lives. The weight of her voice was final, and Tyler finally realized the theft had failed, but the real damage had only just begun. Tyler didn't move. Not right away. He stood there in the middle of my bedroom, glitter still drifting from his sleeves, blinking as if Rachel's words hadn't fully registered. His mouth opened, then closed. But there was no comeback, no clever defense, no smooth pivot left. The mask had finally cracked, and underneath it, all that remained was fear. Rachel's arms were crossed tightly, her jaw clenched. Her voice, just moments ago filled with heartbreak, now carried the sharp edge of fury. Get your things, she said. Leave this house. Still. He didn't move. This is insane, Tyler said finally. You're taking his side over mine? Rachel didn't even blink. You called my father a fool. You planned to rob him. And you were going to take me with you without telling me the truth. Tyler looked at me, desperate. He set me up. I raised my eyebrows. You mean I protected my home? You humiliated me. No, I corrected him calmly. I exposed you. Rachel turned to him. How much, Tyler? What? How much do you owe? His eyes darted away. Does it matter? It matters to me. Tyler sighed, shoulders dropping as if shedding the last bit of pretense. 47,000. Rachel inhaled sharply. The number sat in the air like a weight. It explained everything. His urgency, his obsession with my routines, the obsession with the safe. You were going to steal from my father to pay off gambling debts? I was desperate, he said, voice rising. You don't understand the kind of people I owe. I was trying to fix it. For us. Rachel shook her head slowly. You were going to destroy the only man who ever helped us. The one person who gave us a place to live, food to eat, and treated you like family. You weren't trying to fix anything, Tyler. You were trying to run. She turned toward the door. Start packing. You're done here. Tyler's panic returned in full force. You can't just throw me out. Watch me. We're married. Rachel's voice didn't waver, not for much longer. Tyler stepped forward again. Desperate now. What about everything we built, our life? Rachel turned to me. Dad, do you still have the recording? Of course. And the camera? Still running. Good. She turned back to Tyler. You built nothing. You lied. You used me. And you were one glitter bomb away from getting away with it. He stared at her like she'd become someone he didn't recognize. I'll fight this. Rachel didn't flinch. With what? Your debt? Your criminal plan? You're not as smart as you think. She smiled without warmth. No. But I learned from the smartest man I know. That landed like a blow. Tyler knew it was over. He left the room without another word. Glitter trailed behind him like a parade of shame. We heard him in the guest room. Drawers yanked open, clothes shoved into bags, curses muttered under his breath. Then the hallway creaked beneath his weight. The front door opened, slammed shut. Silence. Rachel and I stood there for a moment, just breathing. Then she turned to me. I'm so sorry, Dad. I reached for her hand. You have nothing to apologize for. I should have seen the signs. No, he was good. Too good. Until he got greedy, she blinked away tears. Thank you for trusting me. For not hiding the truth, you deserve to know. And you needed to see it for yourself. Rachel sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the open drawer. A few specks of glitter still floated in the air. That was genius, she said. The trap. I smiled slightly. Insurance taught me one thing. People show their true selves when they think no one's watching. She exhaled deeply. What now? Now we move forward, together, she nodded, then looked back at the door. He's not just going to disappear. Let him try. He left glitter all over this house. He left a confession on audio, and if he wants to go to court, I'll be waiting with documentation. Rachel gave a small laugh. It was the first real laugh I'd heard from her in weeks. You really are dangerous, Dad. Only when pushed. 3 days later, Rachel filed for divorce. Tyler didn't contest it. He didn't have the money for a lawyer, and with the recording, there wasn't much to fight over. He left town 2 weeks later. I never heard from him again. Rachel stayed. She got a part-time job at the local library, started rebuilding her life, rediscovering who she was without him. She filled the house with warmth again. Laughter, routines, the smell of morning coffee and the quiet sound of pages turning at night. One morning, as she was getting ready for work, she paused by the kitchen table. Do you ever regret it? Regret what? Not calling the police that night. I sipped my coffee, thought for a moment. No. I wanted him to see himself clearly before anyone else did. And I wanted you to hear it with your own ears. She nodded slowly. Sometimes justice doesn't need sirens. Sometimes glitter and shame are enough. She kissed my cheek, grabbed her bag, and walked out into the morning light. I watched her go, proud and heartbroken all at once. She'd been betrayed, but she was still standing. And Tyler. Tyler would never forget the night he thought he had it all figured out, only to open the wrong drawer. The days after Tyler left were eerily quiet. No more suspicious footsteps at odd hours. No more questions disguised as curiosity. The house felt clean again, like it had exhaled. But I didn't let my guard down, not yet. Men like Tyler don't walk away quietly. They regroup. They circle back. And I wasn't finished ensuring he stayed gone for good. I spent that week doing what I do best, documenting everything. I copied the audio recording to 3 separate drives, printed transcripts, took high-resolution stills from the camera footage, and labeled each frame by timestamp. I wrote a detailed summary of events, including dates, actions, and red flags I had initially ignored. It read like a case file, which in truth it was. Rachel noticed what I was doing. You really think he might come back? I think men like Tyler don't give up until reality slaps them hard enough. This time, I planned to be the slap. She didn't argue. Instead, she helped me assemble everything into a binder we jokingly labeled Operation Glitterful. The title made her laugh. Laughter was good. It meant healing. One morning, 2 weeks after Tyler had driven off into the night, I noticed a car idling across the street. It wasn't a neighbor's, tinted windows. Engine running for 10 minutes. Then it pulled away. The next day, it happened again. Same car, same spot, same pattern. I didn't panic. I prepared. That night, I repositioned the camera. It now faced the front window, angled just enough to catch a full view of the street. I added a second unit on the porch, disguised inside a fake potted plant. Motion activated, cloud synced. If Tyler or anyone else came near my home again, I'd have footage within seconds. The next morning, I filed a police report, not a complaint, just a notification of possible suspicious activity. I gave them the car's description and the partial plate I'd written down. The officer was polite but cautious. No threat, no crime. But now there was a record. That's all I needed. Rachel was slower to recover than she let on. She moved through her days like someone still unraveling what had happened. She tried to focus on her library job, on cooking, on cleaning, but the hurt ran deep. Sometimes I'd find her just standing in the kitchen, staring at the glitter that had lodged itself permanently in the floorboards. It was like a ghost. You could sweep and mop, but you'd always find another sparkle in the corner of your eye. One evening, she asked me something I didn't expect. Why didn't you tell me you didn't trust him? I looked at her, wondering how honest she wanted me to be. Because I wasn't sure what would hurt you more, being blindsided by his betrayal or thinking I saw it and did nothing. She nodded slowly. That made sense. Pain doesn't only come from betrayal. It comes from silence, too. I could have handled it, she said quietly. I know. But I didn't want you to have to. Rachel started therapy shortly after. Quiet sessions once a week. She came back tired but lighter each time. One night, she brought home a stack of books on emotional boundaries and rebuilding trust. Another night, she left one on the table for me. It was titled, The Anatomy of a Betrayal. We never talked about it directly, but leaving the book was her way of saying thank you and sorry. Another week passed. Then the email arrived. It came to Rachel's inbox, sent from an unrecognizable address. The subject line, we need to talk. No body text, just a PDF attachment. She called me in immediately. I opened the file on my laptop. Tyler's voice echoed through the speakers. It was a voicemail, recorded, then converted to audio. Rachel, please. I know I messed up. I was scared. I didn't want to lose you. I made a mistake, but we can fix this. We had something real. Your dad tricked me. He set me up. But I forgive him. We just need to start over. Call me. There was a second file. This time a short video, Tyler, sitting in a cheap motel room. Still glitter on his hoodie, bags under his eyes. Desperation etched into every word. They're going to kill me, Rachel. The guys I owe money to? They're serious. I need help, please. I just need enough to get them off my back. You don't have to come. Just wire the money, please. I don't have anyone else. Rachel closed the laptop slowly, then looked at me. He's not done. No, I said. He's just realized his last trick didn't work. She stared at the blank screen. Do you think he's telling the truth? I shrugged. Maybe. But truth and manipulation wear the same face when it's desperate enough. She didn't reply. The next morning, she went to the bank and froze the last account they had together. Transferred every remaining cent into a personal account under her name. Blocked his number. Deleted the email. By the end of the month, the sightings of the black car had stopped. Tyler had either left town or realized his schemes had run out of fuel. I never reported the email or the video. I just filed them away. Because evidence never expires, but desperation does. Spring turned to early summer. The flowers in the front yard Rachel had planted began to bloom. She took pride in them, cared for them like they were proof she could still grow something beautiful out of wreckage. One Saturday morning, we sat on the porch drinking coffee. Do you think people ever change? She asked. Not without consequences, I said. And Tyler? Tyler changed the second he saw his reflection in that glitter. But not the way he needed to. Only the way that fear changes a coward. Rachel sipped her coffee and nodded. Then she smiled. You still have the trap? In the basement. Fully reset. Maybe we should patent it. Glitter bomb home security, catch the crooks and make them sparkle. We both laughed. Tyler may have tried to tear this family apart. But all he really did was remind us who we were and what we were willing to protect. The glitter never fully left the house. No matter how many times Rachel swept the floors, vacuumed the rugs, wiped down surfaces, it lingered. It hid in corners and carpet seams, stuck to socks, clung to the rim of coffee mugs. It had become more than a prank. It was a reminder. A bright, sparkling ghost of the night, everything changed. And honestly, I didn't mind. Every time I spotted a tiny gold fleck on my shirt cuff or caught a shimmer under the fridge, I smiled. It meant the trap had worked. That Tyler's plan had detonated, loud, messy, undeniable. Justice, in all its ridiculous brilliance, had left its mark. And Rachel, who once would have flinched at the memory, now rolled her eyes and laughed every time it happened. We were healing. Quietly, deliberately. She filled her time with structure, her part-time library job, weekend community events, a book club she actually enjoyed. The same club Tyler once used as a cover for his robbery plan. Now it was hers again, free from manipulation. I stayed busy too. Fixed the porch railing, repainted the hallway, organized the attic for the first time in years. I liked routine. It kept me sharp, and it gave me time to think. One evening, as Rachel was getting ready to meet a friend for dinner, I found myself in the basement again, standing over the drawer that held what was left of my old confetti arsenal. The spring mechanism still worked. The glitter pouch had been replaced, resealed. I'd even upgraded the trigger sensitivity with a tiny magnetic latch. There was no need to use it again, but something about keeping it armed made me feel Complete. Rachel caught me staring at it. You're not really planning to trap someone else, are you? Not unless they ask for it. She smirked and kissed my cheek. You're a menace, Dad. Only to those who deserve it. After she left, I returned to my evening paper and my quiet porch. It was a peaceful life again. But peace, I'd learned, isn't something you inherit. It's something you defend. And sometimes, defending it means building things others wouldn't understand. Glitter bombs, camera traps, paper trails. Trust is fragile, and I was no longer interested in giving it away cheaply. Then came the envelope. It arrived in the mailbox on a Wednesday. No return address, handwritten, thick paper. Rachel handed it to me while sorting the rest of the mail. Looks like it's for you. The handwriting was familiar. I didn't need to open it to know who had sent it. Still, I took it to the kitchen table, slit the edge, and unfolded the pages. It was a letter from Tyler, 4 pages long. Sloppy handwriting, smudged ink in places where I suspected tears had fallen, or maybe spilled coffee. The opening line set the tone. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from. The rest rambled. Apologies that sounded more like explanations. Justifications wrapped in guilt. He blamed his debts, his past, his desperation. He said he never meant to hurt Rachel, or me. Claimed he panicked. Claimed he wanted to confess the night I caught him but didn't know how. Claimed he left because he knew he was broken, but one line stood out from the rest. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just needed someone to know I'm trying to be better. I read it twice. Then I folded the pages neatly, walked to the filing cabinet in my study, and placed the letter into the binder with everything else. Not out of sympathy. Out of completeness. Rachel never asked about it. And I never volunteered. Another month passed. No more cars parked across the street. No emails, no midnight voicemails. Just quiet days and slow healing. Tyler had vanished into whatever life awaited him beyond the glitter storm he'd created. Then one day, Rachel stood at the kitchen counter, phone in hand, a look of hesitation on her face. What's wrong? She turned the screen toward me. It was a text from an unknown number. Just a photo. Of what? I leaned closer. It was a picture of a receipt, a money order, $47,000, paid in full. No message, no name, just the photo. Rachel and I stared at it, unsure what to make of it. You think it's real? Hard to fake a photo that clean. If it's a lie, it's an expensive one. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then she set the phone down. He paid them off? Seems like it. You think he used our money? No, we locked everything down. Then how? I shrugged. Sometimes shame changes people. Sometimes it doesn't. But if it did, this might be his way of proving it. She didn't reply. But she didn't delete the photo either. That weekend, I opened the glitter trap drawer one more time. Not to set it. Just to look at it. The spring still worked. The pouch was still full, but for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel the need to use it. I closed the drawer gently and turned off the basement light. Upstairs, Rachel was setting the table for dinner. Something smelled like rosemary and roasted potatoes. Home again. And this time, it was safe. It had been 5 months since the night Tyler tried to rob me. 5 months since he opened the wrong drawer. Since the glitter trap exploded in his face and the truth spilled out behind it. Since Rachel stood in my bedroom and chose clarity over love, dignity over deception. Now life had a rhythm again. Rachel's mornings began with coffee and quiet music. She walked to the library when the weather allowed, waving to neighbors, some of whom still whispered about what had happened. They didn't know the details, only that Rachel had left her husband, moved back in with her father, and somehow come out stronger than ever. I kept my routines too. Weekly errands, lawn care, crossword puzzles at the kitchen table. I'd long since dismantled the camera in my bedroom, packed away the recording device, and placed the glitter trap into what Rachel now called retirement. The house felt light again. Lived in. Safe. But even as the surface calmed, small reminders lingered. An envelope from a law firm arrived one Tuesday afternoon. Rachel opened it in the living room, her fingers trembling slightly. Inside was a final notice confirming the divorce decree. No disputes, no appeals, just a clean severing. She exhaled slowly and looked up at me. It's really over. I nodded. Now it's your beginning." She didn't cry. Not this time. Instead, she stood and began tidying the living room, as if clearing away the last traces of a life that no longer belonged to her. I watched from the kitchen, quietly proud of how far she'd come, of how she'd rebuilt herself without bitterness. Later that night, I found myself replaying old memories, not of Tyler, of my wife. She'd passed 10 years earlier. Cancer. Swift and cruel. Rachel had been in college then, and I'd held this house together through grief and silence, keeping everything in its place because it was the only thing I could control. She would have liked how Rachel turned out, would have laughed at the glitter bomb story. Probably helped build it if she'd been around. She had that kind of edge, a quiet ruthlessness when someone threatened the people she loved. I imagined the two of them sitting across from each other at this very table, sharing stories, comparing notes. The image made me smile, then ache. Grief and pride live close together, I've learned. A few weeks later, Rachel came home from work with news. "There's a new guy volunteering at the library," she said cautiously. Quiet, polite. "Seems nice." I raised an eyebrow but said nothing. She looked away. "I'm not jumping into anything, Dad. I'm just talking." I nodded. "That's how healing begins." She smiled. "He thinks you're a legend, by the way." "Oh?" "Said you were the glitter bomb guy. Apparently, that story's made the rounds." I shook my head. "Perfect. That's how I'll be remembered. Suburban. Batman with a sparkle grenade." She laughed and tossed a dish towel at me. "You're not wrong." In the weeks that followed, she mentioned the volunteer more frequently. His name was Noah. He liked history books, volunteered for shelving, and made a point to bring in fresh flowers for the front desk every Monday. I made no comments, but I listened. One Saturday morning, she asked if it was okay to invite him over for dinner. "Nothing serious, just a meal." "Of course," I said. "This is your home too." That evening, I vacuumed the hallway twice. Not because I cared what Noah thought, but because I knew Rachel did. He arrived promptly at 6. Nervous, respectful. Brought a bottle of wine and a copy of a hardcover book he thought I'd like, an old detective novel from the 40s. Good taste. We ate in the dining room. Roasted chicken. Garlic potatoes. Conversation moved easily. Rachel seemed relaxed, lighter than I'd seen her in months. Noah asked thoughtful questions, mostly about my career. He'd heard bits and pieces from Rachel, about insurance work, fraud cases, and of course the infamous glitter trap. "You really did that?" he asked wide-eyed. "I did, and it worked?" That's incredible. I work with cybersecurity cases sometimes. Wish more people thought like you." Rachel blushed. I stayed neutral, but I noticed how he didn't dominate the conversation, how he listened, really listened. After dessert, Noah offered to help clear the table. I declined. Rachel walked him out. I watched from the kitchen window as they spoke briefly on the porch, both smiling. When she came back inside, she didn't say anything right away. Just leaned against the doorway and looked at me. "Well?" I washed my hands and dried them slowly. "Seems like he's got both feet on the ground." "That's a good start," she nodded. The silence between us was soft, not tense. "Thanks for giving him a chance. Just don't let him near the dresser." Rachel burst into laughter. "Deal." The rest of the night was quiet. I stayed up reading. She went to bed early, a contented calm in her steps. Before I turned in, I checked the camera feeds out of habit. No parked cars, no suspicious activity, just stillness. But still, before turning out the light, I opened the glitter trap drawer. One more time, just in case, not to set it, not yet, but to remember, because peace isn't something you inherit, it's something you protect. The seasons turned again, summer folded into fall. The leaves outside the house flared into brilliant reds and oranges, drifting softly across the lawn. Rachel had taken to raking them herself. She said it helped her think. I offered to help, but she always smiled and said the exercise was good for her. She liked the solitude, the rhythm. Inside, life continued its quiet rebuild. Noah had become a regular presence, polite, thoughtful, never overstepping. He never stayed too late, always brought something with him when he came. A pie, a book, flowers for Rachel. He never once asked about my finances, my safe, or the layout of the house. That alone made him remarkable. One afternoon, I sat at the dining table with a cup of tea, watching as Rachel and Noah chatted on the porch. Their conversation was light, their laughter unforced. It didn't sound like the laughter of people pretending to be okay. It sounded like people who were becoming okay again. I thought about the first time I saw Tyler in that same chair. I remembered his stare, how it moved over my house like a spreadsheet. I remembered the way he'd compliment things without meaning it. Every word another step in a plan I hadn't yet seen. This was different. Noah wasn't calculating. He was just present. Rachel didn't say it. But I could see it. She was starting to trust again. Slowly, cautiously, but sincerely. That night, while we cleared the dishes, she spoke without looking at me. "You think it's okay to let the past go?" I didn't answer right away. "Letting go doesn't mean forgetting," I said. "It means remembering without bleeding." She nodded, lips tight. "It still hurts sometimes." "It will. But that pain's proof you learned something." She looked up at me. "And what did you learn?" "That old men should trust their instincts more, and that sometimes glitter is better than a gun." She smiled. "You're never going to let that go, are you?" I shook my head. It's too good a story. A few days later, the library hosted a community safety night. Rachel had organized it herself. Guest speakers, security tips, demonstrations. She asked me to speak during the closing session. I tried to decline, but she insisted. Said people needed to hear how practical preparation could stop even the closest threats. I stood on the small stage, a projector screen behind me, and told the crowd the short version. No names, no locations. Just the facts. A father, a daughter, a guest who turned out to be something else. A missing key, a trap, and a handful of glitter that ended a deception months in the making. The audience was silent at first. Then laughter. Then applause. Afterward, a young couple approached me. "Sir," the husband said, "how did you know? That he was lying?" I paused, because he wanted me to trust him faster than he earned it. The woman nodded slowly. "That's good advice." Noah picked us up afterward. Took us out for ice cream. Rachel got pistachio. I got plain vanilla. Noah got strawberry swirl. "You know," he said, "you should turn that story into a book." Rachel grinned. "Already working on it." I turned to her. "You're writing again?" She nodded. "Changed the names. Changed the ending. But yeah, writing." I felt something loosen in my chest. Something old. Pride, maybe. Relief. A little of both. Back at home, I walked upstairs alone. In my bedroom, the glitter trap was still intact. Still functional? I checked it now and then, like a soldier inspecting a weapon long after the war had ended. But tonight, I did something different. I disarmed it. I removed the spring. Dumped the glitter back into the bag, folded the mechanism, wrapped it in cloth, and placed it in a small box labeled "Retired." Then, I put the box in the attic, because sometimes peace is not just the absence of danger. It's the decision to stop waiting for it. Rachel's laughter drifted upstairs. I heard her clinking dishes, humming a tune from her childhood, something her mother used to sing. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked around the room. No cameras, no traps, no predators. Just a family that survived. 3 weeks later, Rachel's book was accepted by a small local press. The cover was simple, an open drawer, a burst of color, and a tagline that read, "Some lessons stick with you." Like glitter, it sold well enough. Local libraries featured it. Book clubs read it. People asked her to speak. She always thanked them, but she never told them everything. Some stories aren't just meant to be told, they're meant to be lived. If you've made it this far, you know one truth. Justice doesn't always come in courtrooms. Sometimes it arrives quietly. With glitter. With planning. With the unwavering love of a father who refuses to let his daughter fall. Like this video if the story gripped you. Subscribe for more tales where betrayal meets its match. Share it with someone who knows the value of being prepared and being believed. And tell us in the comments, was Mark's revenge enough? Or did Tyler get off too easy?